Hey, welcome, all my right thinkers. Thanks for tuning in and check out your boy, people. Thinking right out here in the lab. Well, I do what I do for you. You got something nice for you. Let's talk about the self. A little quick tidbit. All right, let's do it. Right is a 25 rules to live by. Storytelling. Story with a message. Message is story for life. I give life lessons. You tune the receiver. We got a good thing going. Appreciate you. Let's do what we do. Right thinking mission, and that's what I'm on, is to enlighten, inspire, educate, and motivate you, the individual, to a higher spiritual level of enlightenment. Right thinking's way of life through mental and spiritual discipline daily will help and guide you to obtain your goal of spiritual enlightenment, aka know thyself. My mission is that all right thinkers get the lesson they need to know themselves. That's the mission that I'm on. Your goal is to know thyself. Tune in, get the lesson, because everything I do, remember, is for you to do just that. Know thyself. All right, so I ask you the question: do you know you? It's rhetorical, but if you don't have an answer for yourself, tune in. I got you. I help you do just that. That's what I do for you. A person who knows not and knows not that they know not is foolish. Disregard them. A person who knows not and knows that they know not is simple. You teach them. That's what I do what I do for you. Appreciate you too. Stay tuned. I got more for you. A person who knows not and believes and think that they know is dangerous. Avoid them. I do. A person who knows but knows not that they know is spiritually asleep. Awaken them. I'm the spiritual alarm clock here to wake you up with knowledge of self. That's what I do for you. A person who knows and knows that they know is wise. Follow them. All these persons reside in you. Right thinkers, know thyself. And to Maya, be true. Right thinkers. Let's talk about selves or self-realization and the difference or the different selves that we have. Characteristics and aspect of our character, but this all pertaining to the self. And the one self-realization that we all should come to understand is to know thyself. All right, so let's go. Spiritual self-realization is spiritual awakening. We are spirit beings. To know thyself, to become to realize that, to know thyself, that's that's self-realization or spiritual awakening, aka we know it better as what? Know thyself. By what? Living righteous and virtuous, obeying your higher self, aka God. So it becomes a way of life. When you're obedient and when you're self-realizing what you are, you will serve your higher self, not your lower self. Most people get caught up serving their lower self. When I was young, I did too. So it's an understanding way of life. But you have to raise your consciousness, your higher self. Why? That's self-realization. Self-realization is also what? Self-improvement. Raising your conscious level and becoming what? Your best self. Your lower self, your ego self, ain't your best self. Understand that. This is just a lesson and get understanding. Never cast aspersions, never judging, just laying out there for you. And if you fit the bill, don't get mad at me. I'm just laying it out there. Change what you're doing. That's all. And if what you're doing is working, that's who I'm talking to. Why? Because you get it. Some of us don't get it. Self-realization, again, is having knowledge of who? Self. That's what right thinking philosophy teaches. Self-knowledge. We call it spiritual truth. Why? This is the real truth about yourself. And by learning what? From someone who knows themselves. So if you're a teacher of self-knowledge, you should have it, you should master it, or you should be teaching it. Self-realization is knowing who? God for yourself, not just believing in God and claiming to be a servant. True servants of God live a certain way. I see a lot of religious people professing but not living. So that's why I got a problem with those kind of people. Understand that. Self-realization, excuse me, is self-awareness. And that comes from what? Obtaining and practicing and learning spiritual knowledge with somebody who has spiritual knowledge that they can teach you, that you can learn from, aka say the ego self. Let's talk about that. Here you go. Now this is the problem right here. Know the ego self, aka your bad self. Why? Because it's without God conscious, aka ignorance of his higher self. Remember, God dwells here, not here. And if you're ignorant of God that's in you, you are egoistic. Why? You think it's all about you. You done edge God out. You don't even know God. That's why I keep telling you, the ego acumen edge God out. Get it? Understand it? You can call it what you want, but watch this. And everything you call it still leads back to what? You're not God conscious, you're ignorant of your higher self, and you're on your own. Why? The ego self is solo by himself, okay, or herself. We all, watch this, we all think we know ourselves. Well, my name's so-and-so, I was do. Yeah, but until what? Until we really get in what? Need of something. Who you gonna call? Excuse me. Because we think God is outside of us without knowledge of self, you thinking God is somewhere other than inside you. So you look outside yourself for something that's really yourself. That's ego. The ego self is what? Ignorant of what? Of its higher true self, which is God. So again, I'm trying to explain to you, ego is edging God out. It has no knowledge of God, no concern about God, and no fear. Obviously, why? It don't care. That's why. So it only cares for what? Itself. Hence ego. I, me, my, all singular. The only singular thing we know of is God. And if you're not with him, you're egotistical and you on your own. That's why. Hope you get that understanding. Again, the ego self is human. That's who we identify with. So ain't nothing wrong with identifying with yourself. That's what we're supposed to do. But now that's just your lower self. Raise your consciousness to get to your higher self, your better self, as they say. Okay? It wants to what? Be pleased. Your ego self just wants to be satisfied. And guess what? Because it's greedy, it's insatiable, it will never be satisfied. So unless you figure that part out after a few lifetimes, you might get the grip. Wait a minute, something ain't working here. Yeah, satisfy my ego ain't getting me there. Work and be obedient to your higher self, and you'll receive blessings that only your higher self can do for you. You can't do it for yourself. Understand that. In the physical, material world, you living in this hellhole. And if this is what your pleasures are, this is where you're going to be. That's the only thing. I can't tell you no other way. That's just a simple fact. Because the ego self is what? Not controlled. It will what? You ready? Kill, aka you, aka itself. Why? It don't care. It's self-destructive. That's why the ego self, when controlled, watch this now, and put into what is place of servitude, it is your best worker. And in the book, you see when Ra is sitting on the barge, they on the serpent. Serpent is longer than the barge. Okay, that's Apophis. And you see Haru standing behind him. You see Tahuji standing behind him. You see that all saying Ujat standing behind them. And they all mesmerized because Apophis got them messed up fear. Okay. Only one that's still fighting because it fears nothing is your ego self. It'll fight to the end. Okay, that's what y'all hold on to when death comes. Y'all ain't giving in. Y'all didn't know that ego will fight to what it does all it knows. So that's what I'm trying to say. In servitude, it serves you well. But in master, no, it don't let it lead. No. So understand that it's a good servant, hell of a servant, the best servant. But it has its downfalls too. Understand that. Now, the enlightened self, aka right thinkers. Watch this. When you thirst for knowledge of self and you get self-knowledge, meaning you're getting satisfied and you're living by it, you are becoming enlightened. You're learning things about yourself that you need to know that you can do and live by. Simple. That's self-knowledge. To be enlightened means what? Again, means to be understanding of what? Learning spiritual truth that what? Enlightens you to who? You. Self-knowledge, again, is the best knowledge. Spiritual truth is how you obtain self-knowledge. If you study, when? Daily. Well, no, daily. I don't care how many times. I don't care. If you study daily and you live by what you learn, what'll happen? You will become an enlightened being. Simple. Anything else, you just spinning your wheels and waste your time. Why? Because it has to be consistent. You have to do it, make it part of your life, live it. In order for it to work, you have to become it. When I was unenlightened, I didn't know myself. I thought I did, but I thought myself was the coolest, all that nonsense. And I did bad, wrong things continuously. So, yeah, I was hard-headed, okay? Once I changed, now, this is the good part. Once I changed my life around, or they would say, turn my life over to Christ and change them to God. Yeah, no, I got enlightened. I got enlightened, and I just figured some things out, and I started doing them. I'm like, oh, this is the way to go. And when I got my calling, 2013, May the 1st, I ain't looked back since. Why? I know what I know now. I know I've been doing the right thing. Why? That's what he told me. Okay? So, that's what's the difference. And when you change your life around and you become what? A spiritually enlightened being, meaning you become enlightened to your higher self. That's the spirit. That's the God in you. When you make that transformation, you are an enlightened being. An enlightened being. Okay? With what? Self-knowledge. You can't get that in no university. The spiritually disciplined self, aka again, right thinkers. These are things that your aspect, your character have to be up on to get where you want to go, which is the level of knowledge of self. And some things you have to put the work in to make that happen. So discipline is another one of them. Watch this. Now with spiritual discipline, that's my favorite. And you live by that daily, what'll happen? Your life, without spiritual discipline, sorry about that, to live by daily, what happens? Your life is drama, aka fetid field with constant issues. Some good, some bad, but they constant. Why? You can cause them. This what you causing the problem. Okay, without no spiritual discipline, you'll be reckless. Watch this. The difference to that is now on the flip side. With spiritual discipline, is what I practice as your daily practice. What'll happen? You will what? Do the right thing, and good things will happen for you. I guarantee you that. Simple as that. You can't do right and have bad things happen. Adversity there, but no, your reward for doing good is going to be that adverse situation will be taken care of, and you won't even know it. Okay, that's the difference. If you still experiencing adversity, you're still living wrong. A spiritually disciplined man or woman will what? Will not commit adultery. Trust me. When you're committed to do the right thing, doing the wrong thing don't come into play. On either side. I keep telling you, I don't pick favorites. I don't pick and choose. No, it's the same thing for both. Okay, understand that. Where we at? Now, being obedient to God is being spiritually disciplined servant of God, meaning you're going to do the right thing. And cheating ain't the right thing. So you hold yourself accountable not to do that. If you have an addiction where you can't do your obligation to God, we see that happen too. Supposed to be good people doing bad things because they got that addiction. Another side, we do less on that. But trust me, it's a real thing. Just so what? If you don't get master these aspects of your character, you will fall victim to them. And, well, I don't know what happened. Yeah, you wasn't thinking right. I know what happened. Moving on. And you're sure if you ain't thinking right, you can't act right. Now, let me wrap this up. Again, I appreciate you being tuned in. Where I'm at. Your spiritual discipline is being what? Virtuous, righteous, when? At all times. Again, integrity and righteousness ain't what you display to people. It's what you do when nobody's around. The eye lets you know he sees your heart. That's where he dwells. So that's what he sees. He never said he saw your mind. He said he see your heart. Moving on. That's wrapping it up. Knowing thyself is the goal for all right thinkers. That's why I give you the things you need to do to make that happen for you. And for everybody, it's different. That's why it's universal. You take what you need and you work with what works for you. Simple as that. That's right thinking philosophy. You find out what works for you and you work it to your best ability and benefit. Find your talent. Work it. Use it. Make it pay out for you. However you want to do. But do that for yourself. Moving on. Let's go. Yeah, it sounds simple. Know thyself. But for real, it may be the hardest thing you ever have to do, and that is to know you, aka know thyself. It ain't easy, and trust me. Right thinkers, your goal is to obtain the knowledge and use the knowledge of self. That's how you become knowledge. That's how you gain knowledge of self. And to know thyself with knowledge and studying and living, that's knowledge. That's to know. Right? Excuse me. Knowledge, again, is the way. If ignorance is the wrong way, knowledge has got to be the right way. That's the opposite of ignorance. Knowledge. Not knowing to knowing. Knowledge is knowing. Knowledge is the way to what? Know thyself with what? Without knowledge of self, you will never know thyself. Again, ignorance will get you there. When you keep it real, and my name P-Funk means pure real. I don't know nothing else. I never tried to be nothing else. I ain't never tried to fake it. I ain't never tried to pretend to be none of that. None of that. So keeping it real is an aspect of your personal self. Knowing thyself, even when it was wrong, I still knew who I was. A little ignorant, but still knew me. I thought, who I was. I know I was a bad guy, so I did bad things. But when you keep it real, aka being yourself, again, that's who you are. Your true self is in there. You just got to understand that. And what happened? You have to what? Obtain the knowledge of self in order to know the self. So that means knowing that self means you put the work in to obtain that knowledge. You did the things you had to do to manifest it for yourself. Hence, knowing that self. But it's the work that you put in to make it happen. Wrapping it up again. Learning and living by our spiritual truth of our ancient ancestors is, like Christ say, the only way to know thyself, aka to get to the Father. Okay? Knowledge is the key. Trust me. I know. I give it to you. Now you know. It's up to you to turn the key, turn that door, open it, and do you. But right thinkers, again, may all y'all live to be 100, and me 100 minus the day. So I never knew that right thinkers had passed away. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. You know I'll be back.